Hello, everyone. Sorry. We're glad you're here for the growing session, and we're going to kick things off. I want to introduce our first couple that's going to be speaking today with Yarrowhead Farms is Mike and Amanda Wilson. So let's give them a round of applause as they head up here.
All right, good morning, everyone. I am Mike Wilson, as Michaela said, and this is my wife, Amanda. We are the partners in Yarrowhead Farms. We have been around since 2016, and we're going to talk a little bit today about moving your farm beyond just participating in a farmer's market and opening up some type of retail store to help escalate your business into a broader offering to the public. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'll give a little bit of background about Yarrowhead Farms. In 2016, we started farming and really focused on the wholesale market, so going direct to restaurants and the grocery store entities and things like that. So that's what we focused on. We were really big into that. That was what our drive was, to continue that. Well, as of 2020, that changed. We lost a lot of restaurant contracts as they shut down. We needed an outlet. We were growing way more than we could sell through just little grocery store type entities, so we needed something we could do. The opportunity to open our own market came about, and we decided to jump on it and see how that venture went. So that's kind of a little brief background about us. We are a certified organic farm. I know a lot of people are not or don't want to be, but after the presentation, if anyone has any questions about how to get certified, if you want to do that, we are more than happy to help out other farms with that process, filling out paperwork, what it entails, that type of thing. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us after this presentation, or if you have any questions online, we can get you our contact information to reach out later. Do you have anything? Okay. No. So we'll go ahead and begin. So as you can see, we are Yarrowhead Farms, and our presentation, we are taking your farm beyond the farmer's market. So to begin, it's the coin toss. The coin toss is how to determine when to expand your business beyond the farmer's market. And there are some hard questions you need to ask. You know, we talk to a lot of producers that are satisfied with just doing a seasonal farmer's market, 25, 26 weeks a year. They're going to have some produce, maybe not. It just depends. But that is their goal in life, is to do the farmer's market. There are other producers who want to make a career out of this, out of farming and out of growing and producing food. And so how do you do that seasonally? It's very, very tough. Farmers markets, they are attended in Oklahoma, but they're not attended enough that you can make a real go on a yearly income with that. So ask yourself, where do I want my business to go? How big do I want it to grow? And then
well, I think on that also, being able to separate your business with your personal life, that's always a huge thing for farmers in general, because most of the time farmers are living on their business property. So being able to separate your personal life with your business life, it's just being able to focus on how much exactly are you willing to invest in your business, your time, your monetary investment. I think those are huge aspects that when you are talking about expansion, how much, really seeing it as a business entity instead of, it's being able to set proper boundaries between your work life and your personal life. So that's a big thing. It is a hard question. If you really want to be serious with your business, it's something that you really have to take into consideration.
And then next, what does my company need to focus on when reaching new clientele? A retail organization is not a farmer's market. Farmer's market feels a little more like peddling your product to people as they're walking by. It's people that attend a farmer's market, they're out for a day of enjoyment. They want to browse and talk and discuss things and learn about each vendor and what their practices are, and what they're making, and the love that they put into that. They want to discuss that. So
which is wonderful.
It is a wonderful
yeah.
thing, and that is a great way to grow a business, is to get your name out there and let people know how much passion you do have for your business and things. But when you reach a retail or start to open a retail organization, the conversations are less about, as people come into shop, you look at the grocery stores today. When you go into a grocery store, you have an idea. You either have a list or a certain item that you want to go, and you beeline for that, and you pick it up, and you maybe read the label, maybe not if you've bought it before. You pick it up and you leave and you pay and you're gone. Well, that's the difference between the farmer's market and even a small retail operation, which we'll get into later on how to determine what you want to be. But you need to ask yourself, how am I going to focus on a different clientele? That most of the people, and we'll talk about when you set up a retail operation, where you put that. If your farm is in the city and you're going to open a retail operation or a farm stand or something, and it's in a big city, maybe the clientele is fairly similar to what would attend a farmer's market. They're just going to do it on an off day. Or if you're in rural Oklahoma like we are, we opened a operation within that served several small communities, and we'll get into the numbers here in a little bit, but it was a totally different clientele where they are not going to a farmer's market in one of the cities, and not every little town has a farmer's market, so they may never have been to a farmer's market. So you have to ask yourself, what are we looking for, and how are we going to reach the clients we have at each of those different levels? And then, am I serving the right customers? So this was a big question that Yarrowhead Farms had to ask itself. Am I serving the right customer? We went into business, as I said, to serve a wholesale market that needed bulk products. We also have a passion for being eco-friendly, which is in our packaging, everything is compostable or biodegradable, and we make sure that happens every time. We don't put anything in a plastic bag that's oil-based. It has to be plant-based of some sort that can be biodegradable. So when we do that, that's a totally different market than somebody that's looking for, say, a $3 bowl of lettuce. This may be a $5 bowl of lettuce or a $6 bowl of lettuce. And so you have to know your market and your clientele. Who are you trying to reach? You don't want to, you want to make a plan to stay focused on those goals so that you can feel good about your passion. So that is our passion. We know that a lot of people don't want to pay a higher price for some of that. We do have to charge a higher price because our packaging does cost us more. So we know we are at a level that maybe we're not going to reach everybody. But there are programs out there from the USDA and things like that that can help subsidize some of those costs. So there's things you need to go to, reach out, do some investigating to figure out what your direction is.
And to add to that, anytime, it's always kind of hard, especially when you are, you have customers who, if you're a people person and you want to please everybody, and when you're trying to expand and you're moving forward in your business and you've decided, okay, I want to go forward with this, we're going to expand our business. Sometimes, that there's there are tiers of your customer bases, and sometimes that bottom tier, that can tend to if you're at the farmer's market, it can tend to almost keep you in that peddling mentality. And so we want, if you're really wanting to expand your business, you may have to really look at some gruesome facts and say, okay, maybe I need to put my product in a better price point. And you don't want to, it's not to snub that 10%, but it's to, you're moving forward in your business. So it's just keeping that business mentality.
Yeah, and I think that plays into, a lot of people will ask you for discounts at the farmer's market. They want to get a great deal, and a lot of people feel that farmer's market prices, the farmer will,
They're not firm.
well, yeah, they jack the price up because they think they're trying to make all the money they can, which is not the case. We price our products to what we believe they should be priced at, and the quality is there. We are not Walmart. Farmers market and local growers, they're not Walmart. Our products taste good. They actually have nutrition. They weren't ripened in a box of gas. These are things that we should see value in. And so when somebody comes up to us, and I'll just throw out numbers, but let's say we have tomatoes at $4 a pound, and they will come up and say, well, I can get tomatoes at Walmart for $1.49 a pound. Great, you can, and that is not a lie, that is the truth. But our tomatoes are not $1.49 tomatoes. Our tomatoes are $4 a pound, and we do not waver from that. If you don't want to pay that, there's 15 other vendors that have tomatoes. You can go and see if anybody is selling them for less and maybe get a discount. But that's not our model, and so that's one thing that as producers and business people, you need to make that hard choice. Are you willing to peddle, or do you want to stand firm in your beliefs? And so that's the last question is, do I believe in my products? Are your products good enough for the price you're asking? Yes or no? If not, maybe you need to reevaluate prices. Maybe they need to be $3 a pound or whatever that is. But believe in your products, believe in your growing practices, believe in your business model, and it will all work out. There are definitely the customers that are willing to pay for quality. And maybe it's, don't be so strict that you don't share your product. If somebody comes up and they've never been to a farmer's market, they've only had Walmart tomato, and I hate to just blast Walmart, but I'm using them as a prime example because they are in almost every community. So maybe they've only had Walmart tomatoes and they've never had a homegrown or locally grown fresh tomato that was ripened on the vine, or an heirloom type. I mean, just different varieties have different flavor palettes and things. So maybe you need to share a tomato and say, here, try this tomato, and we'll see you again next week when you come and buy our tomatoes. Because you're gonna say, wow, I didn't know tomatoes actually had flavor. I thought they tasted like they were cardboard. And so that's what they knew, so that's where they're going with that. So.
And I think it's important also that you don't have to be a phenomenal salesman. So there are, as a grower, there are different types of people. There are people, and there are people that like to keep to themselves, and they just go to the market and they put their product on the table. And you don't have to be this, showman, salesman. It's if you believe in your product, your customers will see it. I mean, it's something I think that's just instinctual. When you know somebody's being honest with you, they're going to be more accepting of what you have to offer. So I think that's a big point.
So our next topic is focus on your genius work. So most entities will start at a farmer's market as they're getting into this, or some type of outlet like that. And your genius work is what makes you different. What adds value to your company? Is it your produce? Are you really good at selecting the right varieties that are flavorful or unique? Maybe you're growing a scorpion cucumber that is spiky and nobody else has it, and you just are fascinated by this, so you have passion with it, and you'll talk to anybody about it. So that's your genius work. So when you're at that market, ask your customers, what sets you apart? And anybody will tell you why they shop with you. If they are shopping with you, they believe in you and your business. So ask them. Don't be afraid that they're going to give you negative response. Maybe they do. Maybe they say, we love your produce, but we hate your display. It's, it's cumbersome. You stack things 7 feet high, and I'm 5 foot tall, and I feel like I'm going to knock it down, so I don't buy anything on the top shelf. So ask them. More people will be willing to tell you what you want to know, and you want to know the positives and the negatives. And so as you look to expand your business, look to that. Look to my genius work and say, where do I need to focus? Whether I need to change something that's negative to my customers, or I need to really push the positives. So, Yarrowhead Farms focuses very heavily on being clean. Our presentation, clean. We want things to look clean. We want them to look the same no matter if you're buying at the farmer's market or a retail store or at Urban Agrarian or wherever you're buying products. We want you to know that it's streamlined and clean from Yarrowhead Farms. That was our genius work. Our farmer's market stand looks the same. We have it set up identical every week. Everything is put in its place. We don't overstock anything, so we're not that. And it's not being wrong. If you want to have the big pyramid of something and just pack it full, that's great. That's your line. Ours is being more streamlined and clean and
I'm just focused.
Focused, yes, that's a great word, focused. So those are questions you need to ask yourself as you start to think about expanding and growing your business.
And I think an easy way to put that into, he mentioned surveying your customers. If you just, using it in a broad term like that, you may forget about it, but focus in on maybe like 10 to 20 of your top customers that you see. If you're already in a farmer's market, you're seeing the same people come back, and they give, they focus on, they have what they want from your table every time. So the people that are coming consistently. So 10 to 20 people, ask those questions, or ask them to give you feedback, and maybe even they may already have some feedback for you, but ask them to be open and willing to give you even more feedback. Also, I think that's an easy way to.
And the last point is evaluate your short and long-term goals. This should be done constantly as an ever-evolving business. You should always be evaluating your goals. Short-term goals you should evaluate weekly, just to say, are we on track to meet this goal? Did we have to shift? And last year was just a phenomenal year for businesses to learn how to shift and refocus and do whatever they needed to do to keep going. So we should keep that momentum in the following years and say, I'm going to reevaluate my short-term goals constantly so we can keep focus. And then my long-term goals, what are those long-term goals? And are my short-term goals helping me get to my long-term goals? If they're not, maybe we reevaluate those and move into those. So we put on here, less than a year is your short-term. So these are very quickly changed, little tangible goals that you can reach quickly and make you feel like you're doing the right thing. And then the long-term goals, 5+ years, where do I want my business to go? How am I going to grow when I get there? What is it going to look like? And so we can continue to move on that way.
Yeah, and to add to that, we do quarterly meetings throughout the year. So we are constantly, every 90 days, reevaluating what are we doing for the next quarter. So it can be as simple as that. You can also carve out whether it's maybe one full day a week where you can sit down and put a pen to paper, and we have, I either have to write things down on paper or I write it on a chalkboard. And so it's constantly right there. I can focus on what I need to do, how I need to plan my week. And then again, like I said, we have, for the short-term goals, we have quarterly meetings, and then, your long-term, how do we want to expand in the next 5 to 10 years, and what are our dreams, and all of that. So it can be a fun process too, I think.
So let's move into the plan. What is our plan? First, think about branding your business. And what does that mean? What is a business brand? All of you have a name. You may not have a logo. It just depends on where you're at within in your growth and movement of your company. But branding your business is very, very, very important. This allows people to remember you. It allows people that if you do service multiple areas, so if you sell to little grocery stores or your market or the farmer's market, they know when they see you, your business is well presented. It is you who's doing it. If you print off your labels on the packets you can get at Walmart that are just, they go through your inkjet or your laser jet printer, and you might put your name and some brief information, you'll probably get lost in the crowd. I mean, there's 3 or 4 people doing that. The consumer may or may not remember you, and I will say for the most part, they don't remember you. People have come to our farmer's market and shopped and shopped and shopped, and then they see us somewhere else and they're like, hey, we saw you at this location. And it was a sign that branding really worked, because it was, if you're just at the farmer's market, they may come to you every week and know your face. And I'm a face person, not a name person. Amanda is more the name person, so I always give her the name, so hopefully she can remind me later. But I remember faces. But I may not remember the business, but I remember your face. And so you want people to remember your business. Because if you grow and hire an employee, your face is not there anymore. So you need your business to have its own face. So branding is very important.
Yeah, and keeping in line with that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So next step of the plan, determine your market. What is your market? This can be multiple things. If you want the upscale market, everything you do is very, very high end, then that is your market. If you are just trying to get quality food into your community's hands, then that is a market. So really think about what is my market and what should I focus on? And don't try to focus on multiple markets. It's very tough to do that. If you have just, some lower end items and really high end items, a lot of the people just don't want to, if they're looking for high end, they may not come to you because they see the low end first and they just keep walking. So try to find a market that really fits you, your community, or what your company morals believe in. Just focus on that market. And then we have select a business model, and we'll get deeper into selecting a business model, but this is, I'll just leave it at that. We'll get more in depth in the business model as we go forward, and then determining a business location, which will just tail end all of this information as we move forward. So brand your business, create individuality. So when you brand your business or your farm or whatever organization you have, there are some items that you need to remain consistent on. One, if you have a website or social media or logos or anything like that, if you swag, so if you have hats or t-shirts or things like that,
decals,
everything needs to be consistent. Now, I'm not saying everything so the Yarrowhead Farms logo, that is our main logo. We have a bug. The bug speaks volumes to our company. So if you look at the bug and really study it, there's a plant in there because we do grow plants. There's a heart in there because we do love what we do and we love feeding our community. There's a Y in there for Yarrowhead. So there was a lot of thought put into that bug itself. And then Yarrowhead Farms just tells you who we are. But we utilize that bug for a lot of things, and people recognize that bug when they buy. They don't have to see Yarrowhead Farms. If they see that bug, they know that's Yarrowhead Farms. So we've really been diligent about branding our company and our farm to be noticed. And so, but we put a lot of us into that. So do that. It doesn't have to, when we sat down initially to brand our business, we were asked the question, who do you want to be? And I said, and it was me personally, Amanda had her thoughts on this, but I said, I want to be Coca-Cola of an Oklahoma farm. That's who I want to be. I want anybody, and whether they buy from us or have tried any of our produce or not, if they see that logo, they know who we are, and at least that we are a farm in Oklahoma. That was my goal. I know that is a huge goal, but that helped us when we started determining, let's brand our company. Everything needs to be very consistent. If you see the swirly Coca-Cola, you just know what it is. If you've ever had one, you instantly see that logo and you know the flavor that they bring. So that's kind of what we wanted to do. If you see that bug, you know that there was love put into whatever product you're buying from us. So that was...
And to kind of go through, so in consistent, keeping things consistent, obviously he talked about keeping your website and just your visuals all the same. This is our home screen for our website. So everything is, again, he mentioned streamlined, just very clean. Looking at this, this is what we're about. Our mission is redefining organic, and there are multiple definitions, I guess, into that, if getting further into what redefining organic means, but that is who we are, and you see it immediately, and that that's Yarrowhead Farms. So we keep it streamlined through everything, and then even into our this is our market stand. So again, everything is we are constantly restocking things onto our tables because we do keep things precise and clean, and it's a little bit extra work sometimes, but that's just who we are and how we like to present things. And then even so we have something that is fun and you can still keep your image clean and streamlined. So we have a Sponsor a Hive program, and it's really a great way to involve really anybody, kiddos, adults, and who may not have access or are terrified of bees or whatever the reason. It's a fun membership, and we still are keeping that consistent image.
Okay, so we are running out of time, and so we're going to run through the rest of these slides. Sorry about that. Determining your market. So let's figure out, where do we want our market? Who are we going to try to service with our company? So are we going to look at, if we're in a larger community, are we going to look to service our local community? Or are we in rural Oklahoma like we are, and we have to service maybe the surrounding areas? So when we decided what market are we looking for, we said we are servicing obviously the surrounding areas because we're in small rural Oklahoma and there's small little communities all around us. So that's what we determined. The local community is there a big fresh food movement? So maybe that's what you focus on. You focus on reaching the people that are really big into that fresh food movement. You know, do a market analysis, and the next slide actually shows a little pseudo market analysis. There's you can do a total addressable market and all of that, and if you have any questions afterwards, we can go through all the mathematics on that, but I'll just briefly go through on the next slide what that is. Look at your median household income. You know, are you in a low-income community? So maybe you need to focus on, maybe sign up for SNAP and maybe sign up for, I know one of the tribes in Oklahoma gives farmers market bucks to really any tribal member that is over, I believe, the age of 55. They can sign up through the one tribe. They don't even have to be members of that tribe to do it. And so maybe you look at trying to supplement some of that with programs like that exist already. Now look at surrounding rural communities. Are you in a food desert? Do you need to provide more than what you do as an entity yourself? So we grow produce. Maybe you need to source dried goods, so maybe dried beans and rice and things like that you need to service this community that there's nothing around. They have to travel to go to the grocery store. Maybe they want to eat healthier than the Dollar General that's in the town that has a few, bananas and things, and they need something bigger. So maybe you service that market. So I'm going to move on so we don't run out of time. So here's a brief total addressable market form. So look at your farmer's market. We'll start with that. So let's say the town has 100,000 residents and 1% of those residents attend a farmer's market weekly. That's 1,000 potential customers. Well, you're not going to get 1,000 customers at your booth. So look at what if you gained 4% of that 1,000 that attended the market. So you have 40 customers. Let's say they spend $23.08 a week with you. That's $1,200 a year. That's a pretty small budget for food for most families. You can make $48,000 a year at the farmer's market. It's good money, but you are trying to survive beyond 26 weeks or 28 weeks a year. So if you open a store, let's say you have 1,200 residents in your community. You gain 4% of those 1,200. You have 48 customers. They spend the exact same $23.08 a week with you. $57,000 more dollars in your pocket. So can these expanding your business, does it pay? Does it justify it? Well, look at your market to see if it justifies. And these numbers are fairly made up on the residents and all of that, and we just, and $23.08, that was just a number we came to as when we first did our total addressable market. When we started out as a company, that was a good number for most areas and what their food budget is. So if you have any questions on this, feel free to ask online. If you're in person, you can, yes, go ahead.
Okay, somebody online is wanting to know what tribe. Said what tribe is this?
It's the Chickasaw tribe.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I believe they only allow you to sign up one time. It's at the beginning of the year, and I think there's a time window for entities to sign up to accept those. Mm-hmm. So when you do that, go ahead. Oh, can you? Okay, so. Oh, because of COVID. Okay, with COVID, you can sign up anytime for that, but they do have a website you can go to and sign up. Yes. Okay, and we were just told the Choctaw Nation also gives vouchers, so you may go to their website or contact their offices to learn more about that program also. So we'll move into the business model. Now this is what type of market or grocer do I want to be? Do you want to just be an on-farm stand? This is a great way to market your products. If you're in an area that people will come commute, we are in Wellston, Oklahoma, rural area. We're actually very far north Wellston, so we're 26 miles from the town of Wellston. Not a lot of people want to come to the farm. That's a drive. So
It's a drive, and it's also a really intimate experience. I think when somebody comes to your farm, the farmers automatically assume, hospitality, and it's going to be, even if they're just coming to pick up groceries or something, I think that also kind of deters people sometimes. They feel like they need to make a connection and spend some time together versus other ways of going about business too. So that's something to think about as well.
So as we're thinking, maybe on-farm doesn't work for you or your entity, so maybe you do a roadside stand. So it's mobile, you can move, you can find an area that will provide you need parking, so make sure you don't, and we'll get into all of, the proper locations and things here in a second. Next would be a micro grocer. So this is actually our little market. We are considered a micro grocer farmers market thing. So we provide all the produce, but we do source different products for our community because our community needs it. We don't have grocery stores nearby. It's a minimum of 17 miles before the nearest grocer. So we have multiple things inside of our little mini grocery store. And then there's the collective entity market. Those are multiple entities coming in to set up a larger organization. So you'll find various items, whether it's food goods or hard goods and things like that. So it's just what do you want to set up, and is there enough of a demand in your area for something like this? That's something you need to determine. So the location. This is very, very important. Good or bad location? I would say for people that want to eat fresh, probably don't put your business next to some type of industrial situation like this building is. So just think about when you're setting up, where would you like to shop? If you want to go to a fresh market, you want the farm experience without the farm is what they're really looking for. So they want to see, laid back, maybe some plants growing, things like that. They don't want to see the power plant in the background. So think about that when you're setting it up. Good or bad location? Here's an on-farm stand. It's great. It's pretty. People can see the little hoop house where they can go and maybe look at plants, and they see plants growing, and it's inviting, and it's do I want to eat from this location? Yes, that makes me want to consume fresh produce more than the other. The next one, roadside stand. Don't put your roadside stand on an on or exit ramp. Yes. 5 minutes, okay. So, think about that when you're setting up. People need to be able to park. It needs to be safe for them to access your business to purchase from you. Here's a roadside stand, a good example. It's fun, it's inviting, it's a calm area. Not everyone has access to the little country road that they can park next to, so, but maybe find a parking lot or something like that you set your stand up at. So with that, dotting your I's and crossing your T's, there are business requirements in the state of Oklahoma as you do this. You will need permits, licenses, and things like that. So roadside stands are considered farm sales. If you're not selling any like meat goods and things that you may not need a license to do that, you can do that. But if you're setting up your business, you're going to need business permits. You're going to need to legalize your entity, whether you become an LLC, a partnership, a sole proprietorship, or whatever you become. You need to legalize that with the state. You do need to set up a tax account so you can pay your taxes. Farmers markets and on-farm sales do waive that, so you don't have to pay any taxes on that's tax-free sales, but you do have to claim the income through them. You're exempt from paying the taxes on that. So I put some links in here to some business permits and licenses there. So with that, is there any questions or anything? Seeing none, I will say thank you, and
Yeah, we appreciate your time, and
Yeah.
we're honored to be here. So, and again, like you said earlier, if there's anything else that you are more interested in, we'll be here. So feel free to ask us afterwards as well.
thank you.
All right, we got to hear from Mike and Amanda and their retail experience. Now I want to bring up Joe Tierney with Joe's Farm, and he is going to share a little bit about how he got into Farmers Market Hub and how he is selling beyond the Farmers Market through that model as well.
Hello, everybody. My name's Joe Tierney. I own Joe's Farm. And I don't have a great presentation for you guys, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself and my background. I started out as a chef. I went to the Culinary Institute of New York, of America in New York, and chefed around the country. And coming back to Oklahoma, part of a problem as being a top-end chef was just finding like really, really good product. So, and I had some experience with growing up. We always had gardens and things like that. So I wound up buying a small farm in Bixby, Oklahoma, and spent years just basically cleaning it up. But what I saw is, what led me into the produce business was just seeing a need. There are certain items I just couldn't get as being a chef. So I thought, well, let me go ahead and I'll grow herbs and heirloom tomatoes and peppers and that, and just start that way. So I was, I really saw a real need. So I just started it. I started out with $1,000 that I had to have back into my budget by the end of the month. And I wanted to be a good supplier, so this really isn't going to relate a whole lot to what, the business model really that we're looking at now, but I found some other suppliers. If I couldn't grow a certain thing like thyme or tarragon, I had another supplier. So I decided, to seek those people out because I wanted consistency. I wanted my customers to be able to depend on getting the product they needed from me. So I found some growers down in Texas, and I just started talking to friends in the business, and people started putting orders in, and it was pretty amazing. We went from running a little Nissan Sentra down to Texas. The next week we ripped all the seats out, or I ripped all the seats out so we could fit more product in. So basically, what I'm kind of getting to a couple of key things here is be a good supplier. Make sure that people get what they need. People don't want to hear excuses, and quality. What made us flourish was just total commitment to quality. And two other things I'm going to throw at you real quick. I'm going to kind of bounce around in different places, but the two main keys of success that I see with people starting a business Really where I think they can knock about 90% of the competition out is do what you say you're going to do and return phone calls. Okay, so that's super important. I do have some notes. So basically, I started the company, Progressive Produce. What I did is I worked another job for the 2 years while I was getting things set up, because we basically started out with nothing and built it up and built it up. So I did that for 25 years. At the same time, I was growing. So all the product that we grew went to all the restaurants and hotels and country clubs and that we were selling to. So we were a wholesale company. About 5 years ago, I decided to shut the company down. It was super successful, making lots of money, but I was working 18, 20 hours a day. And every year just blended together. So it was a tough thing to do. You know, it was one of the hardest decisions I'd ever made in my life, was to shut down something that you'd put so much work into. So I shut it down and I traveled for a while, and I came back to the farm, and I just decided, okay, you know, I either have to farm or sell it. It's just too expensive to maintain a farm. And I'll tell you, if you ask anybody that's doing this, it's tough. It's just really, really tough. But I'm going to tell you a few things that I've done, because I think that anybody can be successful regardless of where you're starting out at, okay? So when I got back, I did some traveling, and I did a lot of educational traveling. You know, and this is something that y'all may consider doing, is I'm a strong believer in education. So I would always try to find somebody out in the business world or just in the community that was successful, and go and glean as much information as I could possibly from those people. So, and it's a funny thing that I do, but I've done it my whole life. I would just find who I thought was the best, and I would go and say, hey, can I work for you? I'll work for free. And you'll be amazed at how much you can learn in the course of a couple of weeks working with somebody that's really good at what they do. So that's what I did. You know, I did a little bit of that, traveled around the country, worked at some other farms and that, and kind of put a game plan together of kind of where I saw the business going. And you're going to find out when you start a business, the business kind of takes you almost where it's going to go. So once I got back, we had pretty good infrastructure in place because of, growing for the wholesale company. I didn't really know where to go with things, and I started growing, and we started supplying some restaurants and some customers that we had. And then I had a person pull onto the farm one day, and she said, well, how can we buy your product? And I said, well, I was thinking about maybe selling to the public. And that kind of goes back to that educational process of seeing, other people that were successful. And there were two main things that I saw that other farms out there that were successful were doing. And one of those was a CSA model, and another was their workforce being H-2A workers. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that you have to have H-2A workers. It depends on what scale that you want to be and what exactly you want to do. So what I started out with getting into the retail side is I had somebody reached out to me, and I told her, well, yeah, we'll sell to you. And she said, well, how many people would you sell to? And I said, I don't know, I was doing everything myself. I thought, well, maybe about a dozen folks or so. So by about 3 o'clock that afternoon, we had like 16 people signed up. So what I did was, I was just really, really simple. We got everybody's email address, and on Sunday evening, I would email them out through MailChimp. It's a free app. We put everybody's email addresses on those, and then I just shot them out a price list, availability list with pricing. We've got turnips and radishes and beets and so on and so forth. And then I asked everybody to, send me their wish list. Because I didn't want to put an absolute guarantee on everything. Just it kind of gave me a little bit of an out. Not that we really ever used it, but I just, we asked them for a wish list. So I would get their orders in, and then I would calculate everything out so I knew exactly what I had to harvest. Okay? And then what we did is we had them come to the farm on Tuesday between noon and 1 and between 5 and 6 to pick up their orders. And what I did is I just, I knew what I needed to harvest for the day, and I had everything in crates, so I just brought everything out, and I set everything out on a table where it almost kind of looked like a farmer's market in a way. And then people would show up, I would have their orders written down, I would know what the total was, what I needed to charge them, and they could either pull their own product or I could pull their product while I was talking to them. And it was just a great system. So I'm just telling you guys my story of like how we started out with really no investment really in it, as far as, because it can get really expensive starting a business, really expensive. So that's kind of how we got introduced into the retail, and then it built and built. But it was enjoyable, and it was so. I'm going to kind of try to cover the gamut of like really small, you guys just operating just solely by yourself, and then just getting bigger. So that's something that really almost anybody can do. If you just want to work the farm yourself, and your production's at a certain level, I mean, you'll know how many people that you can support. I can do 5 or 6 people, or I can do 10 people, or whatever. And then you can change it into more of a CSA model. I mean, you can just go in different directions with it. And then once you get up and going, then maybe you could get into a system where maybe now you're doing farmers markets, where you're bringing all your product in and people are coming to you. And the farmers markets are good. I can't really say anything bad about them, but they're a lot of work. You have to do, you've got major harvests that goes on for at least 2.5 days before market. And, do you have refrigeration? That's a key thing. Can you pre-harvest and get everything built up? And then, you have to, you need a trailer, you need tables, you need a tent, you need all these other things to be able to do a farmer's market. And if your production's not that big, it can take a long time to pay for those things back. But you pretty much have a captive audience. But, I think the biggest negative side I saw to the farmers markets was at the end of the market, you pretty much throw all your stuff out. I mean, you've done farmers markets, right? So pretty much at the end of the market, all your product's been out in the direct sunlight, and pretty much at a farmer's market, your refrigeration is going to be maybe some coolers and some ice packs or something like that. So our whole thing was always quality. We would never want to take that product, especially if it had a little bit of wilt or something like that, and then try to resell it. So there's pros and cons to that. Let's look at some pictures. So where we are now, we have been really blessed with a great location. I bought my farm 30 years ago, and we were pretty much on the edge of town. Now they're building $500,000, $750,000 homes all around me. So it's our transition into becoming, a farmer's market hub was a really, really easy thing for us to do. So let's look at some pictures here. See if I can work this. We have a lot of greenhouses. We grow indoors, and something. I'm just going to be all over the page with you guys. Something to help you guys, because I don't know where you all are starting from. NRCS does a great program with the high tunnels, so that really helped us get started, which the first greenhouse you see in there was part of that program. Am I going the wrong way? They're just some of our fields. We do, going back to the education, we just try to learn as much as we can, as quick as we can. And labor is huge. So everything that we do, we just try to do, cleaner, faster, and more efficiently. So we do a lot of plastic culture. We use a lot of biodegradable plastic. We started using that about 12 years ago. So that was one of our farmers market. That was the Cherry Street Market. We did start our retail sales on the farm with a small produce stand that we had bought from somebody and rebuilt. So our costs were pretty low there. So the development really, and everything's happened so fast, it's really just been about the last 3 years or so that we transitioned from the wholesale to the retail. Talking to people, and that's probably going to be about the best thing you can do to kind of really figure out what your market is. Everybody kept leaning us towards the agritourism, and that's the route that we've taken, which I think is a awesome route for anybody to take in Oklahoma. If you have ever done a lot of mass production in farming, and especially vegetables, you're going to find out that harvest is probably the most time consuming. So for us to have people come onto the farm and harvest their own product, it's an absolute blessing. So that's the start of our little retail. So what we did, we had a shop building, and we did it fast. We bought a couple used coolers, a used used 3-door cooler, and a used 3-door freezer, and moved them into basically a shop building that didn't even have a concrete floor. We poured a pad for the coolers, we ran the electrical, and then we just put limestone down, just to where everything was somewhat clean. And people kind of went nuts for it. We have barn doors on it. We roll one end of the retail space open, and then, oh, I'm sorry. So we roll one end of the building open, has got a big door, so we open that. We open the other end, so it's pretty open air, which was great with the COVID thing. So we got set up pretty quick, and it was not real expensive to get set up. We had some infrastructure in place, as far as like a walk-in cooler and things like that. So I'm going to open it up to questions because I can kind of keep going around in circles. Right now, pretty much what we do is we have the retail, we have the agritourism, we sell to the school system, so that's something that's really huge. If you have a little bit larger production, there's a lot of money available out there to the schools. It's a farm-to-school program, so we sell to the school systems. We continue to sell to some restaurants. We sell to people that do CSA programs and that. There's just so many avenues that you can go. People want your product, but it has to be good, and you have to be consistent. So, am I done?
No?
No?
Do you want to talk about who you're partnering with?
Who am I?
The connections and the different farms that you're bringing in for your farm.
Oh, okay. So, obviously with the retail, we want to offer as much as we possibly can to people. So now, thanks to this young lady here, we've become a farmers market hub. And so what we're doing is we're reaching out to as many local producers as we possibly can. And we're bringing in products from Swan Dairy. So we have dairy, we have a couple of cheese producers, we have some meat producers, people that are growing mushrooms, microgreens, just all things like that. So, and guys, there's so much room for producers. I mean, people want your product. You just need to figure something out. As far as selling it and that, it's not that hard. The main thing is really just having just an awesome product. And, you have to have, your price point has to be correct too. We find, what I find a lot of producers out there, they're just trying to get too much money for their product. And it's hard, it's very, very hard to produce in Oklahoma, but that's where we have to get creative with technologies and that, and try to be better growers and more efficient. But you can get rid of your product, whatever you're selling, whether you're raising cows or pigs or mushrooms or lettuces or whatever. There's so many different avenues.
Joe, someone online is asking for your contact information, so if you could.
Okay.
Very good, thank you.
Did you shoot it?
It's on the slideshow.
Oh, okay.
I put it on there for you.
Do you guys have any questions?
Okay, so talking about pricing, so how did you price as a producer when you're like selling it to some other CSSA and when you're selling it retail? Is there a different price over here?
Yeah, so let's just say you're charging $8 for something on the retail side. Depending on what the product is, okay, so radishes would be a perishable item, okay? So I look at things a little bit different. When I'm looking at food, meats, what I call harder items, meats and cheeses and that, will typically, and the more expensive items, will typically bring back a lower percentage, okay? The more perishables, say like radishes, you need to get as close as you possibly can to, and now if somebody else is gonna retail it, is that the question? You need to get as close as to 100% as possible. I hate to say that to you. People don't like to hear that. But if I'm selling to you and you're reselling, and you're selling a bag of lettuce for $5, I'm going to try to get it to you as close to $2.50 or $3 as possible. And that's a tough thing. For people that don't know the business, and don't understand business that well, that's a hard pill to swallow. But it's just the way things work.
So the follow-up question, so would let's call it $5 for the radish would be retail price. How does that kind of establish? How did you get $5?
Oh, you know, you get to a point where, okay, so for me, you know, we sell kale. You can go to Sprouts and pay $1.50 for a bunch of kale. That's organic, and we're certified organic. But I know I'm only going to sell so many kale. So for me to price my kale at $1.50, it's not really going to work for me. So what I do is, because I'm out there harvesting anyway, and I typically have lots of product in the field. So the lack of product is not the problem. So what I do is I make my bunches twice as big or 3 times as big as what you can buy in Sprouts, but I charge $3. Okay? Typically, a bunch of kale that you get from Sprouts or Walmart or whatever it may be, there's typically going to be about 7 leaves. You know, just count the stems and, you know, pick one up. It's typically about 7. We usually put at least 14, minimum of 14. And so now when people pick up a bunch of our kale, it's, you know, it's huge and it's impressive. And people, I've never had anybody say anything about, you know, and the people that are going to complain about the price aren't your customers anyway, okay? But at least you have justification why your product is more expensive. So you can, if somebody asks you a question, you tell them exactly why.
So that's the same, I'm sorry.
No, keep going.
Okay, so if there's, let's say your kale, you're selling 14 leaves for $3. And now what would you sell that to a community CSSA?
Somebody that's going to
Joe.
resell it for probably a
Joe,
buck
I'm
50.
sorry. Can you repeat the question? The people online are asking if you'll repeat their questions before you answer them.
Oh, okay. Okay, sure.
Thank you.
So he was asking, so if I'm going to resell that same bunch of kale for somebody else, you know, on the wholesale side, where somebody else is going to buy it from him and resell it, what should I charge that person? I would charge them $1.50, and I would allow them to make $1.50. Yeah. Now, it's not always going to work with everything, and a lot of it depends on, you know, your labor and your time and into certain products. And some things are tough. You know, how was your crop? Did you have bug damage? And like that may determine on how long it's going to take you to work through that product, or just there's so many different ways to look at it. So what I'm getting to is, depending on what's going on with you and at the farm at that time, it might not make sense for you to sell that for $1.50. You might have to talk to your customer and say, hey, this is, you know, what's going on or whatever. But that's typically what we try to do.
We have a question, I think, for both presenters, so I'll let you answer it, Joe, and then I'll let them answer it as well. But it's, they have a question about how you handle labor during harvest time. Are they contract or day labor? Are they hourly workers or part-time workers that are also called when needed?
What was the last part of that?
Are they hourly or part-time workers that
Okay.
are called when needed?
So what we do right now, as far as our labor goes, we do an H-2A program, okay? I've got 2 guys, they just got here yesterday, so that's why I'm not super prepared. So that was one of 2 things that I saw when I went to all these, what I would consider successful medium to larger size organic farms around the country, is they were using H-2A labor and they were doing CSA programs. Now, when I first started back up, I thought, well, you know, the H-2A program was scary. I don't like to deal with the government. And I just thought, well, let me try to get a couple of young guys and train them and mentor them. And I've been through this for 30 years. There's not very many people out there that are willing to work as hard as we work. And if they do come on, they usually come on with zero experience. So you're having to pour yourself into them. And I would say the average life expectancy of somebody off the street that doesn't have an agricultural background is probably, you know, between 30 days and 90 days. And I almost shut the farm down because of that. I just decided, you know, I can't do all this myself. Now, I could have scaled way back, you know, and that's the thing about the growth. When you start out really slow and without anything, it's really easy to scale back because you know how to do it. So that's what we do. We do H2A. If you guys want the rundown real quick, I'll give you the rundown. The rate this year is $12.67 an hour. We pay for their car. We provide them with a car, which you don't have to, but you have to make sure that they have a way to go to the store and that. But we just give them a car. We pay for their fuel. I don't really watch their mileage. They're very respectful people. If they want to go someplace on the weekend, as long as they're safe, I don't care. We pay for their housing. We pay the utilities. We pay for their transportation costs from Mexico up. We pay for their transportation costs from here back home. And we go through a company that helps us through all the paperwork. The company, I think, is probably about $1,500 for the two guys, maybe $2,000, some $1,500 or so. So that's an upfront cost. And the process is really pretty simple once you go through it once or twice. And the transportation costs coming up will probably be about $400 or $500 per worker. The transportation costs going back will be, you know, I don't know why, but it's just a little bit less, maybe about $300 a worker. So all in all, it's probably costing us, I don't know, maybe $16 an hour to have these guys. But your payroll, you don't do the payroll taxes, so you're not paying state and federal taxes and Social Security and stuff on them. So when they get their check, it's, you know, you're not having to pay your portion as an employer of their taxes. So there's a big savings there. We couldn't do it without them, to be honest with you. We're a little bit bigger farm. Now I say bigger, but it's just three of us really out in the field. We bring a little bit of help on. We have some people that we'll bring on that we kind of work in and we work out. We may work them in the retail, and then we may bring them over to the wash station or something to help us wash. Or last year we had enough employees in the retail that we were able to utilize those people in the retail to do a lot of the packing and the washing that the field help would normally do. So that helped out a whole lot. So I hope that answered their question.
Yeah, so I can answer for Yarrowhead Farms. We actually, the two people you saw on stage, those were the two hands on the farm. So we do everything. We do have an internship opportunity, but it's a short-term type opportunity. So that's the only other employees we have for our farm.
Now, something else that we do and we are probably going to continue with is we work with Union School System, which is up in Tulsa. They're the largest school system. And we do a mentoring program. So we get students in, and it's free labor, but how much does it help at this point? It's just, I would say it's about an even trade-off, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to educate these kids, you know. So when they come in, I put things off to the side that I normally would have maybe finished, just to where they can experience different things when they come out, because they're only out for an hour or two at a time. We're probably, I'll be talking to a fellow here soon. We may start working with John 3:16 a little bit, maybe bringing some people out. But you need a core, you know, you need that core base. And our core base is myself and 2 other people. So, and a lot of good equipment. Any other questions? Yep, the question was, do I have a U-pick for the strawberries? Yes, we do. Yeah, that worked out great. Yeah, thanks to Michaela. She is amazing. So a couple of things that we learned through the agritourism, I'll kind of go around your question a little bit. Well, pretty much all of our advertising is through Facebook, and that's about it. And I don't see that we really need anything else. So what happened this year with the COVID scare, we didn't know what was going to happen. We had 30,000 strawberries out in the field, and so I started buying more clamshells, and I thought, how am I going to harvest all these? Because I knew if I harvested them, I could sell them, you know, at a wholesale, and maybe some on the retail. Things worked out, but what we wound up doing is we set up a website real quick. And so with the website, people had to purchase their bucket of strawberries online, but at the same point, so there was like no contact with the customer. If that's what they wanted, they did not have to have contact with us. But we also made them pick a time slot and a day. So we could open up so many time slots for, say, like a Monday, we might have 7 time slots. We could say, okay, well, we're only going to take 10 people an hour and do it that way. So it worked out great for us. We were super, super busy. And then the flow of everything, our parking lot, the flow in the field, everything just worked perfect. Yeah. And so we're going to continue it. So the whole COVID thing really pushed us in a lot of directions that we might not have ever gone to. So.
I have a question on that too. So what he also hasn't told you is he does U-pick zinnias in the summer, and I want to know, how receptive have your customers that come out for U-pick strawberries or U-pick zinnias been to your farm hub? Are they also purchasing products as they've seen your farm store open?
It's kind of hard to take the mask off.
So I want to know, when your customers come out to pick strawberries and zinnias, are they also shopping and purchasing at your farm hub and buying those products? Has it opened that door as well?
Yeah. So the way that the farm works, and it's all just developing because it's all just happening so fast. We have the strawberries open, so the people can come and give us their order number or their name, and then we'll give them a bucket, you know, and they can go out and pick strawberries. We do have zinnias. This year we'll have zinnias, celosia, and sunflowers available for you pick. We're also going to try snow peas, sugar snaps, long beans, and green beans for you pick. So obviously we're pushing more towards the agritourism. So people come to the farm, they grab their bucket if they're there to pick strawberries, we kind of point them in the right direction, and we leave the field open. We don't really direct them to any certain rows. And then they come back, and typically people will shop the market, shop the farmer's market hub, and buy a few things. And we're finding with the agritourism, with people coming out to, do the U-Pick, that, it's an event. And people want to hang out for a little bit. And people want to spend money. So we might as well, facilitate that. So with having the farmers market hub, and then, we have picnic tables, and we're going to slowly start adding some more things, maybe some photo op type things. But we're trying to stay to our core, and our core is highly nutrient dense, properly grown food. It's all about nutrition. But guys, what steered us in this direction is just the difficulty that there is in being profitable in agriculture. Now, I don't know anything about meat production, but producing fruits and vegetables and that, it's a lot of labor. It's really hard. But we've just found now with the U-Pick options, and not everybody has those options, but it really works out well for us.
I think we had one more question on the app. This is for Mike and Amanda. How do you go about sourcing to high-end restaurants?
High-end restaurants. When I had my wholesale produce company, we couldn't even accept new customers because we were so busy. And if I did want to pick up a customer, what I would do is I was running semis all over, and we were selling a lot of produce. We did all the produce for the PGA, the US Open, and if anybody wanted super, super high quality produce, they came to us. So to pick up a customer, what I would do is I would drive my truck up, and I might call the fella ahead of time. But I would say, hey, I'm going to be out delivering. Can I stop by and just show you some produce? And I would have the guy hop up in the back of my truck with me, and we'd start opening boxes and bags and stuff, and this is it. So I think the same theory really for you guys as farmers is just show up, maybe make an appointment, show up with your product, and show them your product. And your product will speak for itself.
I think Mike and Amanda might have an answer as well, so I'm going to let them answer.
Yeah, so I will say we took a little different approach than just showing up. A lot of high-end chefs want quality food, but they also want to feel like, most chefs have buying power, so they can spend the restaurant's money how they see fit for the menu. So we set it up as a business meeting. We would reach out to the chef, or if, depending on the restaurant, if it was the general manager who had the buying power, find the person with buying power and reach out to them. And we set up a business meeting, and then we would go and we would present our offering to them so we would portion out little bits of things and have them presented, and we'd lay it out on the table and present our offering to them, and then obviously giving them a packet of, here's our 2021 product list and our wholesale price sheet on everything. And then we broke it down into quantity, so if they were a large restaurant ordering 20 to 40 pounds of something, then they obviously got a bigger price break than the 1 to 10 pound restaurant. And so that's how we presented that to the restaurants. We did it different. We had price sheets, business cards, everything. People want to see product. I had a different philosophy as far as dealing with small buyers and big buyers. My philosophy was the guy that owned the small restaurant is kind of struggling probably, and the country club that money really wasn't an option. I sold all my product at the same price. It didn't matter to whom it was. To me, it got too complicated. I just had one price structure,
and that was the money that I needed to make on my product, and I try to offer what I thought was a very, very good deal to everybody. So that's how I handled it, which was a little bit different. Now, most produce companies will, and one thing that we ran against when I was running the wholesale company is they have different price schedules. They might have 8 different price schedules, and they would go into a new account and they would usually offer them the lowest price schedule. And then after 30 days, they'd bump them up into the higher price schedule, and so on and so forth, whatever they felt like they could get away with. We were just really straightforward with everything we did, because it's a small world, and you get a bunch of chefs together, and this guy's saying, well, hey, I'm paying $5.69 a pound for this, and then this fella's saying, oh shoot, I'm paying $7. For me, it was just easier. So that's kind of how we did it. But I'm a strong believer, if you want to sell your product, people need to see it. And that's the easiest way, because people get excited. If your product is really, really nice, people will get excited, and they'll figure out how to get it from you, especially chefs.
So one final question, I think. They are wanting to know, what app do you use for the U-Pick to schedule U-Pick time slots?
Oh boy, you're asking me questions. I'm trying to think, because we had, Shopify. So we had, I'm not good with all that stuff, so we hired a lady, and the platform for the website is Shopify.
I think we had one other question over here.
Okay, back to your selling to restaurants. So you had let's go back to the kale example.
Mm-hmm.
You could buy it at someplace, Pressburg, for $1.50. If you sold a bigger bunch for $3, what might you sell cost to the restaurant? Would that be the wholesale cost of $1.50?
Yes. Yeah, so he's asking if somebody was reselling our product, and let's just say it was a bunch of kale. I was selling it retail for $3. I was selling it to somebody else that was going to retail it. I would sell it to them for $1.50. And then what would I sell it to a restaurant? They're not going to resell it, but they're obviously going to resell it through the meals that they're making. So yeah, we would sell it for $1.50. We kept everything really simple. You're going to find out that, I want to be out in the field growing, and I don't, and our product sells itself. So we just try to keep everything really straightforward, and I think people really appreciate that. Anything else?
We have 1 minute left. If you guys have a question for him, now's your time. Okay.
Come out to Joe's Farm.
Yeah.
Book your reservations early. They go quick.
All right. And one last thing, Sherry Long with Farm to School is also here today. So if you guys have any questions about that program, I would love to introduce you to her. So if you come find me, I will connect you with Sherry Long with our Farm to School program. But that is it for this session. You have until 1:30 to be back in here. Guys can eat lunch in here or go out and eat lunch. So let's give Mike and Amanda and Joe a big round of applause today.